Starve your fat, but not yourself. This concept's not only going to keep you healthy for a lifetime, but also it is going to support weight loss. And the reason this is so important is because it is not healthy to be malnutrition. However, if you lose fat from your body, you're going to decrease every possible disease metric that you may face in your future. It's not healthy to lose lean muscle mass. However, if you lose fat mass, you're going to improve every metabolic metric in your body. So this is why it's so important to starve fat, but not yourself. So let's go ahead and dive in. Before we do, I'm Dr. Nick Zarowski, and if you like staying on the razor's edge of natural health, you're gonna wanna be part of my natural health community called Health Club. In Health Club, I share with you the clinical tools that I use every day in order to keep you healthy and really focusing in on that aspect of natural health, keeping you out of the doctor's office, off meds, and living your life at its fullest. So if you wanna join Health Club, go ahead and click on the link in the description below. I look forward to seeing you there. So let's go ahead and dive into this topic of how you can starve your fat cells, but not yourself. It all starts off with the topic of intermittent fasting. There's three unique considerations that you want to think about when you think about using intermittent fasting for fat loss. The first is going to be the time of day that you're fasting. The second is going to be duration. And then next is going to be how often you're fasting. So let's first dive into the time of day you're fasting, because there's a really interesting study on this. There was a study published in the Journal of Obesity, and they found that if you did time-restricted feeding early on, so about 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. would be your eating window, they found that the participants were able to oxidize more fat, meaning they're burning more fat. You're able to lower your levels of a hormone called ghrelin. This is going to be the hormone that actually makes you hungry. So if you have high ghrelin levels, you're going to be hungry all the time. So you're able to lower your levels of ghrelin. And also they found that the subjects who participated in this style of fasting felt more satiated, meaning they weren't hungry all the time. Now, an important part of losing weight is going to be calorie restriction. And so this is very useful, because if you're hungry all the time and you just feel the need to binge eat, then it's very difficult to lose weight. So this style of fasting worked very well. This was early on in the morning. You're going to have your meals from basically 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. and then fast all the way around the clock till that 8 a.m. mark again. Now, what also is really interesting about this particular type of fasting is that it has been found that your free fatty acid oxidation is going to be more efficient in the evening hours, meaning that if you're well fasted into the evening hours, you're not only going to benefit from that fast, but there's a far higher likelihood that you're actually going to be burning fat at a higher level, which is ultimately what you want here. Now, let's move on to the second part of this discussion when it comes to intermittent fasting and starving your fat cells. Duration matters. So there was an interesting study where basically urea nitrogen was found to increase after the 24-hour mark when you were fasting. And so when we look at urea nitrogen, it's a byproduct of burning muscle. So basically you're breaking down that muscle tissue. Now, we know that for just the purpose of longevity and anti-aging and being healthy, we always want to maintain lean muscle mass. And so what this tells us is that if you really want to burn fat, but not that lean muscle mass, that 24-hour fast is almost a perfect fast, okay? So if you want to throw a 24-hour fast in to burn more fat, to starve those fat cells, that's a really good thing. However, if you go over that 24-hour mark, there's a higher likelihood that you're going to start breaking down some of the lean muscle. So that's why we like that 24-hour mark for starving our fat, but not our lean muscle. And then the next question that comes into consideration during this topic is, well, how often should we fast? I have found clinically that those who change their fasting schedules are going to be those who get the best results. I refer to it as metabolic confusion. Think of it as when you go to the gym. When you go to the gym, if you do the same workout on repeat, eventually you plateau and you don't get any results. Well, the same happens with your metabolism. If you do the exact same fasting method day in and day out, it seems that your results plateau and you're not getting as much fat burning capability as you once did. So what I do myself and what I would recommend is that you're constantly changing the hours in which you fast. So we talked about earlier how it's beneficial to eat your breakfast and eat your lunch and then skip dinner, but you could not only change the hours in which you fast, but you could change the hours of how long you're fasting. For instance, instance, this is how I like to fast in order to switch things up. I'll fast about 4 days a week at 16 and 8, and then I'll go and fast one day at a full-on 24-hour fast. And then on the weekends, I don't fast at all, okay? So I'm constantly changing my fasting methods, and then I'll even change the times in which I'm fasting. So maybe one day I skip breakfast, and next day I skip dinner, and I constantly change it up. First of all, what's most important is that you are fasting at some capacity at all, okay? I also want you to realize it's important to make sure that you make this fit your lifestyle, what works for you, not what works for me. At the end of the day, what I'm letting you know is that changing your fasting method up throughout the week is going to offer you better results. Now let's talk about the next important concept whenever it comes to starving your fat, but not yourself. You want to make sure you're doing everything you can in order to lower your blood sugar. When your blood sugar is low, your insulin is lower. And one of the things about insulin is that if it's very high, it blocks fat burning. So what you really want to think about are what are the ways I could lower my blood sugar? First of all, intermittent fasting is a fantastic way to do it, in which we just talked. But the other thing you want to consider is the foods that you're eating. You want to make sure that you are eating a sugar-free diet. You also want to eat low carb. It's important to keep the insulin low, the blood sugar low, so that your body can access the fat stores and start burning fat. Now from there, we want to make sure that we are feeding our body, but not feeding our fat. Well, how could we do that? Have you ever met somebody who doesn't seem to eat that much food, but yet they can never lose weight? And then when you investigate their diet a little bit, it's like they're drinking soda, they're eating French fries, eating pizza, just eating a lot of foods that are not good for you. Well, the issue is that they're constantly feeding that fat building mechanism in your body. Remember, if we want to lose weight, we want to lower our blood sugar. But if everything you're doing is spiking your blood sugar, it's difficult to lose weight. And you're feeding that fat, but not your body. So therefore, if we want to feed our body, what you have to do is make sure that you're eating lots of good lean protein, vegetables, fruit, whole foods, and really eating a lot of good fats as well, because that's what our body needs. Because you want to be that person who eats a ton of food, feels satiated, and you're still losing weight. And let me tell you, that actually exists, because when you're eating the right foods and your body is nourished well, but yet you're not spiking your blood sugar constantly, you're going to find yourself in a position where you'll lose weight much easier. Now from there, we actually want to think about, well, how can we actually burn sugar in our body? We talked about, well, we want to make sure we lower blood sugar at all costs. Well, how do we burn the sugar? And this is important because right now, your body is burning sugar for energy. Your body has two sources of energy. You can be a sugar burner or a fat burner. Well, if you want to start burning that fat for energy, you have to first burn through all the stored sugar in your body. It's called glycogen. And one of the great ways to do that is through exercise. In fact, doing fasted exercise is an excellent way to actually burn through those glycogen stores. When you are fasted and exercising, you burn through those glycogen stores, and then your body has to turn to fat for energy because there's no sugar to burn. And the other thing that you can do in general is just make sure that you're getting lots of movement in. Go walking, do some weight training. Get your body moving, because there's nothing that's going to mop up that sugar in your bloodstream better than good old movement. So make sure that you're moving as much as you can. Now, the other thing that we have to consider whenever we are trying to starve our fat, but not our body, is we have to make sure that we're eating those micronutrient dense foods, but we also have to take into consideration how much we're eating, because just because you're eating healthy doesn't mean that you can't overeat. So we want to make sure that we're eating in a calorie deficit. So you might be thinking, well, how much of a calorie deficit do I need every day in order to lose weight? A 500 calorie deficit is a pretty good place to be. The reason for this is because it's not too much of a deficit to where you're going to find yourself hungry all the time. However, it is a big enough one to help you slowly lose weight day in and day out. And remember, healthy weight loss can be as little as a pound a week. It's not going to be necessarily 30 pounds in 30 days. However, if you're following these tips that I'm teaching you today, I think that you're going to be able to lose more than a pound a week. So we have to make sure that we are starting to eat in a calorie deficit. If you've never tracked your calories before, I would encourage you to do so. Not that I like tracking calories. I quite frankly think it's an awful pain in the butt. However, it's good for you to have a concept of how much food you should eat every day, because you could be dramatically overeating. And if you are not familiar with how many calories you need, you can simply simply go onto a very simple calorie tracker on the internet, type in the information, your age, your weight, all the information about you, how much movement you put in throughout the day, and it'll give you a rough estimate of how many calories you need. And then from there, you can tweak it. You can go into that calorie deficit from based off the number it gives you. And then this, of course, will put you down the right path of what you need to consume in order to lose weight. So make sure that you're not overeating. And remember, whenever you're intermittent fasting, it makes it so much easier to eat at a calorie deficit because essentially during that fasted time, you're typically not hungry anyway. And then you're just consolidating all your meals down to 2 meals a day. And then if you throw in a 24-hour fast once a week, you're really moving forward good in order to optimize that calorie deficit in a good, healthy way. And when you're fasting, your body focuses on burning fat for energy and not muscle. So that's how you're going to starve your fat, but not yourself. Now, here's the thing is I practice clinically every single day. And I understand that people love their GLP-1s. They love their Ozempic. They love their different GLP-1s that are out on the market today in order to help lose weight, okay? Now, the thing is that I don't like about these different types of medications out there is that they have a lot of nasty side effects. And of course, we really focus on natural health and natural well-being. So because I understand that many people are looking for that extra boost, what I like to use is a very blood sugar targeted berberine that is not only going to help you stay satiated, but also help keep your blood sugar low and follow in on some of these key concepts in which we talked about. It helps you burn more fat, especially when you're fasting. It's going to help drop down your blood sugar and your insulin levels. It also is going to help you eat lesser amounts of food throughout the day, helping you stay in a calorie deficit. So essentially what you would do is you could take some of this about 20 minutes prior to a meal, and it's going to help you not feel as hungry. It'll help you be more satiated, eat less food. And then of course, keep the blood sugar low after a meal. So this is a very specific blood sugar lowering berberine. And what I'll do is I'll put some information in the description below. So if you want to go that extra little bit in order to kind of push yourself down that road of fat loss, this is something that works very, very well. Link in the description below. So these are the tools that I would use in order to starve fat on my body, but not myself. So I continue to nourish my body, build lean muscle mass, get the micronutrients needed in order to lower inflammation, prevent disease, all while burning that fat so that I improve my metabolic health and lower my disease markers. I'm Dr. Nick Zarowski. I hope you enjoyed the video. Give this video a thumbs up and then check out this video next.